Hey friends, today's topic is the real marathon tutorial that the game doesn't show you. Consider this also a before you buy recommendation for marathon. Also, this is going to be a lengthy video. I would not recommend turning this video on before you actually start your marathon play session. Use this video on the commute to your work or when you're doing a boring chore so you can kind of learn this through osmosis. Then when you play the game later, some of the things I said will click, and you might even listen to this video again to see if you missed something. Maybe after playing the game for 10 hours, what I say will make more sense with that context. So let's start off with the first topic, which is this is a game meant for trios. 3 players in a fixed team communicating with each other. Although you can play solo, and in some circumstances, solo is very efficient, I'm going to say, as someone who did the entire leveling system, all solo, maxed everything, got 90% of the upgrades that mattered. I also got all of the upgrades on the solo shell that is supposed to scavenge. Did all of that solo, and I have the numbers of exactly how long that took, so you can mentally prepare if you want to play solo. I'll talk about that in a little bit once I go through the pros and cons of solo versus trio. So my recommendation is, if you have some IRL friends who are also on the fence about this game and curious, just jump in together all at the same time. But that's very hopeful. Not all of us have a social circle, and not all of us even want to do that. So you're going to see a lot of videos on YouTube recommending solo play. And after you watch some of those videos, you'll get recommended videos that are like top 10 tips for solo players. And there's some commonality here. All 10 of those tips are a different, eloquent way of saying the same thing, which is sit in the corner of a room, listen, and shoot some unsuspecting player in the back. But the problem with that playstyle is it's not always efficient, because as you learn this game, as you gain game sense and situational awareness, you realize that there's a time versus risk versus reward equation that you have to answer for yourself based on how fast you play, which will ultimately progress your account faster than the player sitting in the corner doing nothing. Now, obviously, this is an extraction shooter. If you have ADHD and you want back-to-back engagements and that instant response to fixing a mistake, this isn't the game for you. It's a lot of patience, a lot of waiting around, and sometimes very inconvenient or unfun engagements that just randomly will happen, and there's not really anything you can do about it. For example, you can fact check me on this. There's a new map called Cryo Archive. It's the end game map with Destiny raid-like mechanics. But the gunfights on this map essentially boil down to sitting in a vent with a shotgun. And it's not like the players plan on that. It just had a random fight while they happen to be in a vent, and a stalemate happens. It's not a great feeling. But here's where you fact check me. Go on Twitch right now, whenever Cryo Archive is available, and I want you to just click random streams and see how many of them, the POV of the players, are in a vent with the shotgun throwing grenades down a hallway. The answer is, it's going to be most of them. So anyway, you are going to inevitably have unfavorable fights, but as you gain experience in this game, you will be able to anticipate those unfavorable fights better and play with your team where you're using your shell abilities to command a fight, to have more information, to create fakies and make opponents overconfident thinking they have the upper hand when in fact they just walked into a trap. You will be able to rush spawns and obliterate a team before they even realize what happened. And because I'm saying that, you're also going to experience skill creep. Your ability to learn in this game isn't exclusive to just you. Other players are also going to get better at this game. They're going to watch guides. They might play more than you. So even if you're learning a lot and getting better, lower skill players are going to leave this game because they're getting dunked on. And we call this skill creep, right? Where only higher skill players remain and remain and remain. But the thing about this game genre is, look at my vault here. This is a respectable vault. I would say it's about on average for my time played. Respectable vault. Respectable cash value considering I'm playing mostly solo and budget, right? But the thing is, there's a trickle-down effect. As players understand better looting routes, as they become more confident with their kit, they bring in better things, which means the payday for killing players is better. Now, there is a system in the game that makes it so if you loot an item off a corpse, then you die and another player loots that same item off your corpse, eventually the item breaks, right? But the maps are so generous on the high end. Like, for example, Sorry, I still struggle with the menu here. The Outpost map is extremely profitable for very low time investment. Obviously, you have to learn where key cards are on this map. You could even play the Scavenger shell and also make quick profit on this map. But in just a few hours of playing Outpost efficiently, you can stock your vault full of shotguns and consumables and then progress your faction and whatnot. With enough time passing of other teams doing the same thing, your average kill is going to yield better stuff, which is going to yield better stuff for someone else, and so on and so on and so on. So even though there is skill creep and the engagements are harder, your average payday is going up for almost everyone, which is why they do the seasonal resets. And obviously, I have very, very harsh opinions on this genre, but this video isn't the place for that. I'm trying to equip you with knowledge so you can skip the growing pains. So all this being said, there's a term called gear fear, which again, could be a very heavily opinionated rant here, but we're going to skip that. Essentially what I'm saying is after a certain amount of hours, let's say it's 50, let's say it's 100, you're going to have more wealth than you know what to do with. Your vault is going to be filled, and you will recognize the endgame meta for what items are actually important, like signal jammers. This is worth way more to me, these items right here, than this gold rarity shotgun, right? I could delete that right now just to show you that no gear fear. In fact, I'm deleting that right now. I don't care about it because it's very, very limited and not really something I build mastery on until probably 1,000 hours into this game. So to me, it never existed anyway. And a lot of the tension you're going to get in this game is from maybe losing an item like that you grew to like, and you don't want to lose it. So now you can justify sitting in the corner for 24 minutes. But eventually you're going to get bored and peek out, and you're going to realize exactly how you died, and you're going to be gaining that experience, and so on. They say that there's build crafting in this game too, but that's really reserved for the extremely high skill players, because until you're that high skill player, your vault space is better served to grabbing you stuff that actually makes a difference, like the signal jammer. And then, for me, spare shotguns. We're going to talk about the meta that you'll experience in the future, and then we're going to rewind back to the beginning here, so it can give you context to what you're even doing at the beginning. So for me, shotguns are the most important, because the two endgame maps, menu again, Outpost and Cryo Archive, are very shotgun heavy. And although Dire Marsh does have some good loot for specific activities or points of interest in there, it's a sniper heavy map. So essentially the game for the average skill level, or maybe above average skill level, is dictated by presence of shotguns and snipers. And look at my armory here. I can only buy 8 of these shotguns a day. I get a free one there, so 9. And then I get 4. 13 shotguns a day. Then once I get this upgrade, it doesn't actually tell me, but let's just say like 15, 20 shotguns a day, right? If I have a really bad day of PvP, that's only 20 essential lives I have, because if you're not bringing a shotgun into those maps, you're not even really playing the game. So what is my vault space used for? My vault space is used for giving me extra shotgun attempts for when I have the worst day of PvP of my life, so that I can rebuild faster. But as you become more consistent and in tune with your team, you can just delete these. Like, they don't have to take up any space in your vault, because you'll be holding on to these things. these implants that help you make a build. And because you're at a certain efficiency as a team, where you're winning maybe 4 times more than you lose, you can kind of keep your vault stocked with similar analogs to these items to keep your build rolling and rolling and rolling. For the record, I don't think 400 space is enough, and spoiler alert there are reports of cheaters on the PC platform in the ranked mode, so 400 spaces is especially not enough if you die to a cheater a couple times. Definitely can't replace it. You could also just play console to avoid cheaters. That's what I do. The cheating problem isn't that bad, by the way, but it's the fact that it's already happening that concerns me. Little tangent there. But as you get better at the game, you should almost be able to perpetuate a build over and over and over again. Because again, the nature of this game is players get better at getting loot, which means you get better at killing the player who drops the good loot and so forth. It perpetuates. So you actually can have a consistent build. To my surprise, it did not seem like that when I was a beginner. I was like, how am I supposed to bring a build in? But now I get it. Again, saving opinions for a different video. Just telling you how it is. So there are like tiers to loadouts here. Your starter tier is, of course, the sponsored kit. This is your free stuff. And the sponsored kit changes every day. Sometimes it has a terrible weapon, and sometimes it has one of the best weapons in the game, like you see in the background here, the Bully SMG. That's your starter pack. With this, your goal on the map should be find a better weapon, or do some battle tricks to take out a player and use their kit. Their stronger kit will let you succeed at successfully tackling a point of interest, or using that point of interest to make yourself look like a feast, and then reversal a player to get even more loot. And oftentimes that player has already looted a different area of the map, and they're delivering you a bunch of salvage, aka stuff that progresses your account. Also, salvage is very, very good for bartering. A lot of players in the very beginning of the game get obsessed with buying health packs, and these are expensive relative to other things. Like, for example, the V11 Punch, it's a energy pistol that can charge up, similar Halo plasma pistol, except hit scan, Devil's Ruin, Destiny. It costs 50 credits. And if you also look at the price of ammo, it's actually cheaper to buy multiple V11 punches than it is to buy the ammo. And if you compare that to the price of healing, it's almost never worth buying this healing with credits. Instead, you collect salvage on the maps, which are just like otherwise throwaway items, except they're not. They're more important than even purple and gold weapons sometimes. Collect salvage, and then you barter with the salvage. Eventually, you'll hit a point where you're collecting so much salvage off of dead bodies for succeeding that you never have to worry about manually buying health stuff with credits ever again. But you got to get to that point. So to help bridge that gap, really what you're buying the sponsored kit for isn't even to have a gun, because let's be real, the V11 Punch is better. You're doing the sponsored kit to have a couple health items so that when you make a mistake, you can fix it. So then after the sponsored kit, the next tier is the shotgun kit, because you need a shotgun for certain maps to be able to at least trade when you check a corner, best case. And this shotgun in particular is the Wastelander, and let's talk about weapon ships. Weapon ships can influence a gun from what would otherwise be okay to maybe better than other guns. For example, let's look at the pump shotgun. Pump shotgun holds 6 bullets, has much better range, combos with the melee better because it just hits harder. But the double barrel, twice as many bullets. But you could make it a triple barrel with this chip called Stack Overflow. Reload when the magazine's empty, overflows an extra bullet into the chamber. So it's now a triple barrel. Triple barrel is better than a pump shotgun in some cases. And it takes up less backpack space, which means you can collect more of them in your vault. So it sort of changes your loot priority when you're out in the field, especially if you know that if you go to your vault, sorry commuters, I'm going to try to describe this. If you look at your vault and use the right stick click or whatever relative button that is on mouse and keyboard, you can track an item. It appears as this yellow eye, and you'll see that yellow eye when you open a container in the game before you even see what the item is. So you automatically know if you see that yellow eye, it's something useful to me. So I marked all of these stack overflow chips as tracked because this one chip vault space saves me on collecting these large pump shotguns when I could just otherwise collect a bunch of Wastelander shotguns to also fill my vault to give me more than 20 chances a day to play the hard stuff, because it might take 20 chances to get a team of 3 moving and grooving and in sync. And you do have limited shop stuff for everything. You have limited amount of shields you can buy, a limited amount of backpacks. And the shop also rotates each day with random items. Like if I go over here, the perks on these implants are different. Damage a hostile with a thrown or placed equipment, pings them for a short time. That might be pivotal to your playstyle as a team, so you might want to stock up on the entire market's worth of those, which is 3, for future days. And you might not be able to play till the weekend, but you're going to log in every day and just snipe the things that are influential to your build. Okay, so we started off on the sponsored kit. That's your baseline. Then you upgrade to a shotgun. What's after that? What's your next upgrade? The answer is an abundance of equipment. Bubble shield, so that when you have to cross no man's land to get to a point of interest to live, if your teammate is using a self-revive to revive, you can throw a bubble shield at them so that they can successfully revive, and so forth. So that's the next tier above. And then you have a bunch of grenades. So as soon as you down somebody and you think they're reviving around a corner, you and your whole team toss grenades. Then you have claymores. So you can trap points of interest, or so you can get a informational ping that players are on a different side of the map where you previously placed your claymore. And there is a timer on these. I think it's 10 minutes. Proximity sensors, same thing. And then smoke grenades for assassin, the invisibility class, and so forth. Equipment wins the game. Your weapons actually don't really matter besides having a shotgun or a sniper. Like literally any other weapon you bring in, doesn't matter if it's green, doesn't matter if it's blue. As long as you have enough equipment, you will have a better chance in the fight. But of course, all high-level teams are also doing this, so you gotta anticipate that meta progression. And then that's pretty much it. The gold builds and whatnot are really reserved for the highest skilled players in the game, and not really something I'm going to recommend on a before you buy guide. Like, before you buy, caution, you might be the best player in the game and be able to run an all gold squad and never die for an entire week. Like, that's not realistic. But that doesn't mean you can't have fun with this game. There's a lot of silly things you can do once you have the bankroll, so that you can have like 200 deaths in a row and still basically have infinite money. You can do some very silly stuff. A Twitch viewer of mine told me this one. They purposely knocked themselves out with either shooting their own claymores or letting bots kill them, and then they self-revived. And the reason they did this is because it made a pool of player blood on the floor. And then they threw a trap pack on that blood so that it looked like a dead player's. A trap pack, of course, is the player backpack on the floor, and another unsuspecting opponent comes in the room and they search it. Pro tip here. If you see the word searching spelled with a 3 and a 4 like Leet speak, that's a trap pack, and you have like a 1 or 2 second window to cancel your input and walk away before the pack explodes on you. So what this player was doing is they put the blood all over the floor, then the trap pack on it, and then they threw a bunch of trash items like they were sorting through a bag to make it look as juicy as possible, and then they just waited. Cabela style, Bass Pro Shop style, like just playing as a hunter. And it worked. Right? That's part of the entertainment value of a game like this. What is next? Let's talk about the shell meta real quick. Again, we're starting at the end of the story, and we're going to reverse all the way back to the beginning when it's relevant. If you play a solo player, or you're just new to the game, I recommend only playing Assassin. Don't even mess with any of the rest of the shells. Only play as Assassin. And my reasoning for this is the invisibility makes the AI not target you, which means you essentially get a second life. And that second life is valuable because you get to actually learn the map. Your goal as an assassin should be, don't even use the health items. Pretend that they don't exist. In fact, load in the map with just a V11 punch, especially if you're on controller, and just try to succeed with only the V11 punch and maybe some ammo. Keep in mind the AI bots do drop the volt batteries that is ammo for the V11 punch. So you realistically can succeed on just a pistol or even just a knife. I have a knife only video on my channel. And that is your goal. Your goal is to learn the map. Learning the map means also avoiding AI. You don't have to shoot them. You could even use your knife to save on ammo. The AI is there to act as an alarm system or to guard a point of interest. They aren't the interest most of the time. There are boss enemies on the map, but as a solo player, you wouldn't be able to kill them. It's mostly reserved for trios. Not that I haven't killed all the bosses there, but just for argument's sake, say you can't kill them. So you're going to play Assassin so that you can have a second life, so you can learn the map better, use less consumables, which means you're wasting less money, which means you're building up more money, which means you just learn more stuff in the game faster. So basically, play this one until you understand the maps. Now, once you understand the maps, you understand a little bit of game sense, you got some dexterity on you now. Thief is your next main. Thief is arguably the best character in the game. I think it is the best character in the game, but you're playing this for a completely different reason. You're playing this for the X-ray visor because it scans containers through the wall and highlights them in the color of their rarity. So if the chest is purple, it might have a purple weapon attachment inside of it, and so on. And so what you're doing with Thief is you are sort of rolling the dice on whatever map you're rolling into, on what part of the map you're going to spawn, rush that zone, put that visor on, and if you see blue through the wall, then you can almost anticipate that that chest is going to contain a blue piece of salvage that you need to progress your account. Once that salvage is in your backpack, then it is worth spending the whole 24 minutes to guarantee that you extract. Thief also has a reconnaissance drone, which is arguably better than the character dedicated to recon in this game. That is how powerful Thief is. So this is what your gameplay loop's gonna look like. X-ray visor, once you're in the point of interest. If the chest is blue or purple, you know that you're what you came there for. Take it and then rat until the end. Use your pickpocket drone to gather information on the area and truly know when it's safe. Then after you progress your account, this is when you can start playing the other characters, and it'll actually be fun because you now know what you're doing. Other than Thief, I think Destroyer is the only other S-tier character that sort of functions without a build. Assassin is as good as those other two, by the way, but there's a giant problem with Assassin. Assassin needs, like required at a high level, Signal Jammer, and Signal Jammer is a consumable that makes you not be able to be seen by radar pings from the recon character. Wait, I'm not actually sure about that one, but for sure, it makes it so that the X-ray visor on Thief, which sees players' gear, cannot see Assassin invis. And if they can see your invis, it entirely defeats the point of playing this class. So anyway, I'll fact check that in a future video, but just know Signal Jammer helps you stay off the radar, stay off the wall hack. And it also makes your invisibility actually invisible. So if you can stockpile a bunch of those, Assassin again goes from this like starter safe character to an endgame shell that can play in the ranked mode and thrive. So I almost forgot to mention thermal optics. The maps have rain effects, fog effects, smoke grenades are thrown all over the place. And you can see through those with thermal sights. They actually got nerfed at some point. Signal jammers still take you off the thermals so you don't appear there, which makes them worth their weight in gold. And thermals are, unfortunately, also a necessity at the highest level. So that is what you want to mark to find in crates out in the wild. You want to know that you're getting a thermal so you can bring back as many as you can home, because like signal jammers, you can't buy thermals in the armory unless you're really, really lucky. Let me actually see if one is sold right now for me. Does not seem to be the case, but I know I've seen it once or twice. Thief S tier, Destroyer S tier, and then the rest of the cast kind of exist. Now a new player trap they're going to tell you to do is play Triage, which is like the support. It has a medical drone. It has an instant revive defibrillator function. It's fantastic. And it has won me shotgun trade out team fights where we just have more players than the enemy team because of the revives. It's very, very solid. So now that you have your shell recommendations, let's talk about solo versus trio play. I did about 150 hours solo and finished all of the progression, and I have the timeline of how long that took me in both real time, which includes the time it takes to read stuff, be completely new to this game, learn, make mistakes, spend 15 minutes in the loadout screen crafting something together to die in the first minute of combat. All of that. That is what real time means. Efficient time means the actual amount of in-game time that my character is moving around and doing something. There's a lot of dead time in matches where you're just waiting for something specific to happen. So when that's the case, you can just do your homework on the side or type something up on the side monitor, watch a YouTube video. I know that might sound risky when some of y'all are risking your gold items, but honestly, I need the entertainment to pass the time, even when I'm playing solo. So, efficient time played, now that you understand what that means. So let's talk about this. Let me give you the times. I'm scrolling to my other monitor now. On screen, you would see something, if you go to the faction contracts, called a priority contract. Consider this the storyline of the season, and they give you accelerated reputation rewards, and so on. These are sometimes extremely difficult to do in a low-skill trio, versus as a low-skill solo, sometimes you can just get lucky and not encounter another player, which means that you can essentially do these priority contracts for almost free. It might take you 10 attempts to get that lobby, but it would take you like 200 attempts as a trio if you're all low skill. So just keep that in mind. The first milestone I had as a solo player was when I was able to afford mostly an entire green loadout in the armory. Basically, I would buy my V11 punch, I would buy a green backpack, and I would buy a green shield, and then I would buy like an attachment or two for my pistol. That took about 33 hours of efficiently playing. When I finished all of the level 20 priority contracts, keep in mind these go up all the way to level 30, that was about 36 hours of efficient time played and 65 real-time hours. And so I did some calculations here. Assuming your average weekend warrior is going to play like 5-hour gaming sessions, and the amount of time until a reset's about 3 months, that means by the time you get to a point where your account is semi-functional, you're going to have 11 weeks remaining before the reset. And this is as a solo player, by the way. As a trio, you accelerate this process. Like, I'm talking triple or even 5 times faster than a solo player will you progress all these factions and almost everything. The only thing I really recommend solos for is priority contracts, which I already talked about, and potentially doing a key. These keys open locked areas and have typically better rewards. Doing a key, if you're typically the higher skill player on your trio fill teams, it is way better to be in control of your destiny here than it is to roll the dice on randoms. But if you have like an above average trio and beyond, just do the key with them. If you do a solo key, you can't even take all the loot with you. Your backpack literally isn't big enough. So, just something to consider, something to be aware of. So 11 weeks remaining of having a built account for playing solo. You decide if that's good enough for you. At around 60 hours of efficient time played, I was on blue builds, so I was able to afford the blue backpack and the blue shield, and I was able to occasionally get a sniper rifle or something like that to round out my loadout and be more potent. The next thing to mention is the Scavenger shell. This is Rook. Now, although this is a solo shell that loads into a match in progress and sort of tries to find loot that was not searched or dead body bags to take loot back out, you have to rank up Rook. And what does Rook get? Rook gets a shotgun for one of his level ups. Let's read. So yeah, you have to upgrade this Arachne tree, which essentially means you have to kill players. And as a solo player, let's just do the math here. There's 3 times less players on the map, and they're 10 times more likely to sit in a corner and do nothing and shoot you in the back. So essentially, you are not getting player kills, and this is going to take you an eternity to unlock the shotgun, which improves Rook, which means you're filling your bank more often with good stuff so you can play the good parts of the game. So Rook shotgun, essential. But doing it as a solo player now, that you have context for that, that's going to take you around 74 hours of efficient play, or 110 real-time hours. Keep in mind, after listening to this video, you could probably do it in half the time, because these are some really good tips here. I maxed Rook at 125 real-time hours, or 83 hours of efficient time play. And what does max Rook mean? It means I got literally everything for Rook. That isn't necessary. That shotgun, I think, is the difference maker. Everything else doesn't matter. Get the shotgun. But you'll get the shotgun passively playing the game by just killing players. And then after that, to get all of the factions VIP rank, which truthfully isn't worth it. Some of them, yes. Others, no. It took around 170 real-time hours. I didn't get the efficient time played there because I started actually making content and playing with trios, which made tracking the time a little bit harder. Some of the VIPs are worth it, though. Like, for example, I like that the Mida one says Mida will now always award a grenade or a gadget for completing a contract, and as you know, throwing equipment at people wins games, so doing Mida contracts wins games. I believe Traxxas at some point let me buy a gold mod in the shop daily. I forget what it was exactly, but that was the reason to level Traxxas. I'm not going to tell you what to level up here, because eventually you're going to want it all and do it all anyway. What I can tell you, though... Oh, hold on, let me not select Rook. What I can tell you, though, is... You see how it says reroll right here, where you can reroll the contract? Please use those. Because sometimes you're going to get one that is terrible that says... run from this side of the map, run to the other. Put something in a decon, and you don't even know what a decon is. But if you use the side monitor and go to Tauceti GG and have the map ready to go with the decon locations, it'll help you find where the decon is. But anyway, let's just say you're a new player and you do the mental math. It says like kill 9 players in a single run. Dog, you are not killing 9 players in a single run, which means reroll. And then it'll say something easy like pick 3 flowers. And that's it. You don't even have to exfil. Just pick 3 flowers. That's way easier, and it gives the same amount of reputation. So just reroll. Reroll until there. And then watch this. When I'm at 0 rerolls, it's going to tell me, like, wait 5 days until you get more rerolls. Almost there. Okay, so I have to wait 88 hours until I'm able to reroll again. Well, that's fine. You did all the easy, quick ones that you could do. Now what you do is you go to the next faction and you do the same thing. Keep re-rolling until you get the easy ones. And then let's say now you gotta wait 88 hours on this one. Good. Go to the next faction. Do it again. And so on, and so on, and so on. A lot of the best rewards and upgrades surprisingly do come from some of the earlier parts of these trees. Like, they completely unlock your build sometimes. One of the most influential of literally anything, though, was the base melee attack upgrade on Arachne, which did require some specific purple salvage. So once you're on track to getting maybe Arachne rank 22, your priority now shifts from doing those contracts and ranking up everything to playing Thief or playing Assassin and getting out with that purple salvage. So you can get that melee damage, because I promise you, this is extremely influential in team fights. Because you can kill the downed body instantly with a knife and so on. And this, again, is the value proposition here. What's better? Getting out with the shotgun that you're going to lose anyway? Or getting out with the material that permanently for 3 months makes your melee double tap people. It's a no-brainer. You're always betting on the melee that double taps people because it's more permanent. So therefore, this random ass material you need to level up that melee thing is eons better than any garbage ass weapon or backpack or gold mod that you see in the future. So just keep that in mind for your loot priority. On the topic of extremely rare items that you need to keep an eye out for, one thing I neglected to mention up until this point is something called Schema. It's going to be this little paper certificate that you pick up called a Schema that gives you the privilege to buy that item in your armory, which doesn't really sound good to a new player, but to an endgame player and somebody grinding ranked, this is the best item in the game. This is better than anything. I would throw away gold items if it meant I could take more schemas in. So here are some examples of schemas I picked up. This had just like some generic assault rifle that I'm probably never going to use. And then I have 11 battle rifles. This is one of the best guns in the game, right? Having 11 of them just to be able to buy with 1,200 credits as opposed to having 12 BRs in my vault, which would take up too much space, is not realistic. So think of schemas as vault extenders. And then it's also a way to try out some weapons. Like for example, I had this build idea with the Outland Sniper. It's the highest impact sniper. There's a chip that says increases body shot damage when you're overheated. There's another one that says increases damage when your shields are broken, right? And so I'm crafting up this plan where I sit there invisible with a implant that says when you're stationary while invisible, you build up heat, right? So I overheat for being invisible. And I thought like, oh, I'm gonna body shot someone here. Turns out it only knocks a player if they're not wearing blue shields. So green and white shields, it'll body shot. I had to play so safe to get that information because there's not a testing range in this game. Do you know how much I would play this game more if there was a testing range? Granted, I know saying that they would probably have significant player drop off because they're all losing the mystery of this game and they play extraction shooters deliberately to have a bad time. Again, I'm not going to go crazy on this review. Just know that extraction shooters aren't really for me. Just trying to give you the new player advice here. But you will be able to use schemas to sort of give yourself a test run of some of these things to keep in mind if you even want to vault those items in the future or look out for those items in the future. Or for ranked play, like I said, more BXR battlers is better. Or for days where you're buying out your entire stock worth of self-revives, you have a self-revive schema to act as your emergency supply of second and third attempts at getting through Cryo Archive before Cryo Archive goes away. So I forget if I already said this in this video, but I want to recap the solo experience here. I don't recommend it. Maybe I recommend it for learning the game and learning the map, at least somewhat efficiently, and you're not dragging down a team while you do so. But ideally, again, you just grab 3 buddies IRL and just learn the game together, grab the exact or similar enough priority contracts, get them all done together. Significantly better time. And maybe even don't rule out season 2 of Marathon if you did season 1 alone. Because a lot of the solo reviews out there, these players don't have as many hours of me or as much experience at this point. So there's a reason that they think the game is magical and fun as a solo player, and I would rather do literally anything else than play this game solo. So I think that's my closing note here. I will have specific videos on all of this and the long-awaited second impression and longer-awaited review of this game, and I'm still going to cover Destiny content. But past that, I hope you learned something new about this game, and I hope this video helps you have a better, more fun time. This game is foundationally a masterpiece, but it's not really my cup of tea. Despite that, I have had some fun moments with this, and I'm going to make some excellent content on this game. Take care, friends, and I will see you in the next one.